How are you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent. I have a new puppy, so it's all exciting and new. Again.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I just wanted to
Oh, I can't hear you now for some odd reason.
hear me.
Yeah, it's coming in and out.
Sometimes when my phone has the internet on, it cuts
Okay.
out. So I'm just going to switch that off
Okay.
to get full signal. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
That
So
was
what
a
seems to be
total
going on?
nothing. Yeah, just wanted to follow up after the 5 days.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow, that 5 days was it was brutal, but um it I've talked to a lot of people now after that 5 days, and there's just a lot of silence, I guess, seemingly because whatever seems to rise up, um, it's not challenged anymore. It's just what is. And I think that was what was covered, is that everything is just as it is, and there's nothing that needs to be changed. There's nothing needed, and but people keep on coming back to that deathbed, thing. How are you doing after that?
Good, yeah. Like I feel like there was a integration period where like
Yeah,
some seeking kind of rose up again
yeah, yeah,
very briefly though, and it was just instantly seen as an illusion. And
yeah.
yeah, so it's been pretty good after that. Seeing everything as a projection
Yeah,
just makes things so much easier. Like,
yeah,
I think when the seeking energy arises, maybe it's from a comparison that also arises, and it's like
mm,
very short-lived. Like it's easy to catch, and just to see that it's just another story.
yes, yes. Everything that comes out actually, in the narrative, in the thoughts, and the ideas, are just flimsy stories, right? That doesn't really have any beliefs, ideas, doesn't really have any backup, doesn't really have any solidity to it. They're just really transparently obvious that they're not real, and but it feels absolutely real. Like, for example, if we talk about a story of what I ate yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, I had, whatever, right? I had some latte. I'm drinking some latte, kind of thing, and that absolutely feels real. Although none of that happened, um, because anything that seemingly has happened in the past, although there seems to be a continuity, is actually really empty. It's void of any kind of, because even when we think of what reality is, that's a thought of reality, that's an imagined reality, and to be able to describe reality, we have to use words, and then the moment that it gets translated into a narrative, what is it then again? It's nothing. So, for example, the seeking reality comes in and out, right? They're kind of like, there's this felt sense of like, oh, what's that? But when it's seen, that it's like a cloud that passes by. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it breaks apart, sometimes it lingers on for a long time, sometimes it's quite beautiful, sometimes it's colored pink or orange, depending on the sun, sun setting and everything. But so we get entertained by those, right? We get really fixated sometimes. I don't know if you did it as a kid, just lying down in the grass and just looking at the clouds rolling by. One of those summer days that there's no school, and um, that, without the observer, without the separation of subject, object, cloud, and seeing, the cloud is it. The cloud is everything. So when the cloud rolls by, like what this seemingly kind of like really, how do you say it? A very kind of like heavy cloud of seeking. And then when it rains, it's just rainbows again. But it doesn't have to be rainbows all the time. It could be a really shitty, stormy day when you're running for shelter because it's thunder and all that kind of stuff. But what seems to be the maintenance of the illusion is that it maintains that it's permanent, but it's not. The illusion comes in drips and drops, right? Kind of like how clouds are coming. And since it is just a passing illusion, there's no solidity to it, there's no permanence to it. But the illusion, to maintain itself, it almost kind of like it almost kind of like creates this history or time to back it up. But once time is seen as an illusion as well, so everything that's backed up in time is just another cloud again. It's quite brilliant, actually. It's quite brilliant. I was talking to someone last night, and we were just like talking about it, and then there's this oscillation that seemingly is happens, right? It's kind of like like the fan on the ceiling fan. When you turn it off, or when it's plugged off, it's still oscillating, but there's no power to it anymore. The oscillation might take a while, what I'm saying, but although there's no time, it might take some time. But it's kind of funny. After the 5 days, there were a few that it was just done. You know what? Unsubscribe me. I love you. Thank you. We'll chat again soon. That was expected, guys. Like I was saying. And there are people that are writing me beautiful poetries, like the Steve one that wrote, Carol is sending me beautiful artwork and everything. And there are people are like, it was really clear for the couple of days after that, but the me came roaring back in. What's going on? And that's the cycle again. So if that thunder, if that dark cloud of this really hectic me chattering is believed again, then it believes all the clouds and it doesn't see the sky. It's in a cloudy existence. Right? It looks for the next cloud, right? Oh, today was a good day. So that's it's kind of almost predictable now, because that would have been my fourth one that I did, that I usually get a lot of people that are just sometimes people are like but when people are waiting for some special event to happen, and then of course in the breakout rooms there's a lot of people saying that, oh wow, there's people are sharing, then there's a comparison now you're comparing clouds. Well, that cloud there is really it's golden, saying it's really golden. It's kind of like when the sun rises and everything. How come my cloud is a bit dark? They're all illusion. Even when people are saying that, oh well, there's no one here anymore, I was doing this, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that like it's so hard to wrap the mind around the concept of like no cause and effect.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have to observe time to realize there is no time.
It's like what? It's like using telling stories to expose that they're all stories.
Yeah.
That everything that is ever been said is a story. And everything that will be said is also a story. Everything that is seen is an illusion. And everything that has ever been seen is an illusion because there's no time. Everything that will be seen in the future is an illusion. So even an upcoming event of a dropping away is another illusion. It's a perfectly tight illusion. It's like wow, it's tight. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have any errors in it. Although it's flimsy, if you see it too, at the same time, right? It's brilliant, and it's also humble at the same time because it appears in everything. it appears in every single idea, thought, feeling, sensation. All of the senses are all illusions, because all of that senses seems to vanish, you know what I'm saying, at nighttime. Or you're not even using your taste, you know what I'm saying, until you eat, something sweet or something spicy. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And then there's science that backs it up, and although science is just another illusion, because science works in time. And then there's psychology that kind of like also backs it up, of like the me, the character, all the kind of stuff. So there seems to be an explanation of everything. It's just this brilliant, perfect lie. It's a perfect lie that there's a lie. It's like a lie on top of a lie. But since there is no such thing as truth and lie, we can't even call it that. We can just use metaphors and analogies and stories and concepts to dispel that nothing is happening. Even saying that is just another story. There's just no way out of it, isn't it?
It's so direct. Like,
yeah,
just to see everything as a story is so direct. Like, philosophy doesn't even do it anymore. Like,
no.
It's like, I used to go about my day, like, I know nothing has changed, but it's like I used to go about this day with this like philosophy narration.
Yeah.
And now it's just not there. Like, I don't need to make any meaning to just what's appearing.
Yeah. I used to have, tons of books on Audible, spirituality, non-duality, consciousness, awareness, all of that, philosophy. Um, Now I listen to like Sandman. I listen to a lot of fiction now, right? Because there's no more seeking here, and there's just this absence of that energy of wanting to get something, wanting to figure out something when everything can't be figured out. And there's just peace in that. There's just this um wow, like it's just this freedom, this unconditional freedom that is it appears in everything, right? And even if seeking happens, but the seeking is not about figuring out something out, it's gonna like how do I make a perfect recipe for whatever, that's seeking. or
Yeah.
or when I was looking for my puppy, but it's seen now as not this neurotic, consuming desperation of trying to get somewhere. Because in this apparent existence that's not real, there's going to be this waves of change that's always happening. And then this never ending changing, the changeless change, right? It doesn't really change. There's this peacefulness, stillness. And that seemingly all of this kind of like I think I was sharing that with someone when I went outside. I used to hate the change of the weather. There's this ominous feeling. I don't know if you get that. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I used to use that to like measure my equanimity.
yeah.
By like how annoyed I would get at the wind.
or yeah. So I used to, and this time around, um, well, there was just this acceptance, and there was just this nice, cool, stuff to it. Although I like fall, but there is kind of like there's no more narrative of the changing of the seasons. It's just that there used to be dread, when September came.
Yeah.
There used to be dread when, at the end of fall. There used to be dread at the end of winter. It's kind of funny, right? There's almost like a cyclical thing, but there's no time. And all of this apparent appearance is just this, and there's nothing outside of this. And we're just really babbling about stories about nothing. Oh,
Yeah.
people, I love using that, immeasurable stuff.
Yeah.
I've been using it. Thank you.
It just like, well, it's like I was saying, like observing time to realize there's no time. It's like measuring to realize there is no measurement.
Yeah.
So like, and I fully agree what you mean with the seasons. Like, it's so free to not even think about fall coming. Like fall's just gonna come. It's just gonna appear.
Yeah.
And nothing really is gonna change, even if the colors change.
Yeah.
It's still, there's still a consistency.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
I like this.
simplicity.
Yeah. I like this. I said this in the meeting. It's kind of like a 360 degrees black screen. That is super high tech, with sounds, sights, smells, sensations, and everything. And this 360 all around black screen never changes. The illusion is the one that is appearing in it, and it's just changing in different leaves of color, daylight, sun, nighttime, and it's just beautiful if it's seen that way, right? That there's just this constantly changing illusion in a black hole, in the stillness, in the 360 degrees um, emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much to say about it. Yeah. I wish I could even think of something. I'm like, I had no idea what I was going to say today. I was just like, okay.
You have an apparent fan base. People message me about, the in the Toronto meeting, in the live Toronto meeting. They're like, "Who's that non-duality whisperer?"
The
And
whisperer.
the whisperer, yeah.
Someone said it was very relaxing. I was like, that's nice. I'll take it. I'll
Yeah,
take
it's
it.
ASMR.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with the apparent change
Yeah. When did
of
the
the
voice
voice
apparently change? Yeah. When did it change apparently?
in November.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just like, I don't even know how to describe the acceptance, like the inner
Yeah.
acceptance that, because I was almost silent for like 2 months.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
If you don't
we're
mind me
done.
asking, what happened? Did they remove something like a polyps or something, a vocal?
I had the surgery. Yeah. So they just weren't sure. Like there was a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So, but things came around and they did their thing, and it was just like I wish, like it's like I always say this, like you don't need adversity to heal. You don't need adversity to get anywhere, because adversity is just a part of life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there was, because of that challenge, like there had to be a release of the character to just see this is just what was arising.
Yeah.
Like there was no choice.
Yeah.
It had to be accepted.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like, I don't want to say that like learning meditation paid off, because it's not like I was doing meditation, but it did. It did kind of pay off a little bit,
Yeah. And as I say, in the dream, if it helps, whatever helps, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with it. But trying to arrive at something, trying to get liberation through a maintenance kind of like process, in just this apparent experience, it was quite painful, because there was this constant trying to arrive when there's no one that's arriving, trying to get to somewhere when there's nowhere to go. Yeah.
It's like I always would, like I had this narration that would be like, oh, I need to heal my inner child. I need to like
Oh,
do
yeah.
ancestral healing. Like I need to do
Yes.
shadow work.
Yeah.
And like there's nothing wrong with those things, because they still are a part of the psyche. But now it just spontaneously happens.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah,
instant.
yeah,
It's not a.
it is. It is.
It's just like, oh, it comes and it goes. It's not a. It's not a marathon. It's not like a triathlon. It's not like I have to like prepare for it
Yeah,
or train. It
yeah,
just happens.
yeah. When I was a spiritual teacher, I was teaching, being aware of, and I did kind of like shadow work too, and I taught, inner child healing. And at that time, I thought I was really helping, but now seeing it, it was actually retriggering of the trauma, and
Yes.
it was just almost inducing all of this kind of like history and everything. Of course, people will be crying at my workshops and everything, and towards the end of it, when there was this seeing of this radical that nothing needs to happen or nothing needs to be changed. um, I felt like a fraud because here I was helping others with no qualifications, you know what I'm saying? And it's like all pseudo stuff, right? But people would give this amazing testimonial that my inner child is healed and all this kind of stuff. Thank you, Emerson, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, thank you for the shadow work. No one does it in a spiritual community. Um, so people might think that this, what we're talking about right now, this apparent non-duality, radical one, is a bypassing at all, but it's not. Actually, it's a radical acceptance. It's not pushing it away. It's not reinforcing it over and over and over again with some of this shadow work that is done by pseudo spiritual people that think that they know what they're doing. So it's a lot of at that time in the dream, this character was really basically kind of like a there's a term for it, a wounded teacher.
Yeah.
Because there was someone here that has an intention to help and but doesn't address its own issues apparently, right? And it's so funny now, you're right, you know what I'm saying, kind of like the people that I've talked to that have gone through so much of this kind of like um doing through all of these workshops and everything, there's a seeming collapsing of this belief system that something needs to happen, and even trying to find help in a professional way is also what's happening. It's almost kind of like, okay, you know what, I've been going around in this make believe stuff of reintegrating my inner child or higher self, you know uh, unblocking my chakras, cleansing my kundalini, decalcifying my pineal gland, going to different dimension, my ancestral healing, all that kind of stuff. It's just this coloring book, it's just it's just this, it's like a children's book now, right? It's kind of like, oh wow, there's nothing wrong or right about that. It's quite entertaining, but it looks like a couple of like my nieces and nephew playing tea.
Yeah.
All of this.
It's so good. It's true.
There's nothing wrong or right about that, but it's just this, it's like a um it's like it's like people, tea time, you know what I'm saying? People dress up, you know what I'm saying, and would you like some tea? And the participants are fully engaged in it, in this imagination that some healing is happening. And um and they're kind of like, they're almost gonna like avoiding to grow up and seeing that maybe this needs some professional help, you know what I'm saying, and just coming into this pseudo stuff. Again, there's nothing wrong or right about both. It's just what's happening. It's all child's play. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I have a friend that she's talking to him about all of this stuff, and it's kind of like you don't tell a couple of kids that, hey, it's just child's play. It is what it is, you know what I'm saying? There's no one better here because there's no one, but it's just seen as this play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I don't even know how to describe that. I mean, it's exactly what you said, but um, when it was seen in this experience that a lot of that pseudo stuff
Mhm.
was a distraction from reality, and
Yeah.
when that illusion was broke through, that's when it was like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like, basically like when I've talked to professionals like therapists, I say, what about shadow work? They're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're like, we don't even do that anymore. Like we've advanced. So a lot of this stuff, like in spirituality, which is odd because it's so fantastical, but for some reason it seems so linear.
It is, yeah.
When you go to talk to a professional, someone who has studied the psyche and has taken on this responsibility, they see none of it is linear. They will not guarantee anything is happening. And they will advise you not to engage in anything that guarantees something will happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, as is non-duality and, therapy, like, is it one and the same? Like, is those principles there? And it's like, in my experience, there's a lot of crossovers where there's no definitive explanation for anything. There's many truths, none of them being true. But it's like an exploration. It's a dance. It's like a therapist never has any idea what the conversation is going to be like. Like they don't. They're like, I have no idea what I'm going to say here. Like, it's the same. Although this isn't like a therapy, but it's just understanding of the impermanence, and the spontaneity of natural expression, and that the psyche is fluid in nature. It's not rigid, and it's actually the rigidness that could cause apparent suffering.
Yeah, totally. The way that that this is seen, you know what I'm saying, that the radical non-duality doesn't have any therapeutic benefits to it, because it's not, but it's a reality slap, right? So if the reality slap, if an apparent individual is apparently suffering, then maybe they should go to a therapist, you know what I'm saying, that could help them. And there's nothing wrong or right about that. Or getting some professional help. I think there's like Scott Killaby or Don Garland that does this kind of stuff, which is what is, you know what I'm saying? But when people usually come to this apparent communication, it's usually, that they're suffering from something, or they're so I'm very blunt, and I'm like, this is not therapy. I usually can like say that. But somehow, you know what I'm saying, for people that have apparently seen through that there's no one, and there's never been anyone, it seems that there is this it's not a bypassing, it's a radical acceptance. It's a radical acceptance of everything. I was talking to someone, I'll release a video, Monique, that lost her son. His son has gone missing for, I think you talked to her in a breakout room.
Oh my God, I don't
for like about 10 weeks or something. I don't know, 8 weeks or something, and she has not heard from him.
Right. Yes, I did talk.
You remember
remember that. Yes, I do.
Yeah, but there's this peacefulness about this. It's still sad. It's not saying that, well, there's no one here, nothing is happening. There is in the story, a loss and sadness, but there's also peacefulness, that there's nothing that can be changed about that. Everything is just happening on its own. She actively can like post and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not a denial or anything. I think that's a perfect example of what is lost here. Is the loss of a lot of the drama, the unnecessary storytelling and everything, or becomes kind of like a maintenance of the character as this character that's suffering or whatever. It's just seen. I don't know if you saw it, was like, there's just so much peace in it. It cannot really be understood. There's just this peacefulness in whatever seems to happen. It's kind of like my apparent family kind of like knows that with my dog, they were quite surprised that I got a new one right away. because the grieving hit hard, and then it was gone. And then there was and I babysat my sister's dog, and my sister's dog's left, and I'm like, I think it's time to get a dog. They were like, oh, I thought it's going to be a year. That was too soon. I'm like, no, 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 it's not, because there's no more holding on to that story, holding on to the story of, I should not do this. It's just this spontaneous appearance of whatever. There's no story of like, I should wait for 6 months, or I should wait for this. I saw the dog, cute as hell, and that's what's happening. But yeah, you know what? And then there's another person that I talked to that was going through a really bad breakup, really bad breakup, and then this person has also fell away. So the madness and the intensity of finding out, you know what I'm saying, that it was ending, was this. It was like a mad storm at night, and then a couple of days later, there was this ease, because the story's not held on to anymore. And I love, that you're talking about what happened to your throat stuff, right? Because normally there'll be this dramatic thing, but seemingly, what I'm saying, every time that I speak to you, there's just this lightness. It's immeasurable lightness.
Yeah. It's like, and part of the freedom is knowing that you don't have to attach to a story to detach from a story.
Yeah.
Like, it can just be so direct and radically accepted instantly, because I could say, oh, it's because I've attached to stories in the past that I know how to not detach. And it's nothing like that. It's just, it's indescribable. Like, it's a wow. It just didn't. There was nothing detaching. It just wasn't attached to. I don't know.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's even if the story rises, right? You know what I'm saying, or whatever, or whatever story narrative that kind of like, and it's okay. It's accepted. It's accepted as it is. It's just a cloud. It's just a story, as it is, right? Rather than creating another story about it. The story ends all the time. There's also always a story ending. What seems to appear is also vanishes, and it could be an idea about something traumatic from the past or something. So it ends there. I don't know if that makes sense. Kind of like, when I was in this apparent spiritual teaching, kind of like I had a lot of stuff apparently from the past, right? And every time that it would rise up, you would almost like, oh, you know what, the alter ego of Emerson is coming in again. The what do you call that again? The not the inner child, but there's another one, the shadow.
The shadow.
The shadow.
Yeah.
The shadow is coming through, right? So I would either increase my practices to avoid it, and then one night, what I'm saying, I'll just kind of like, all of a sudden here I am, kind of like, going through, drinking and binging and all that kind of stuff, because I'm trying to get rid of that, because I'm avoiding it. I'm not accepting it. It's not seen. It's avoided. It's repressed, and it's done repressed through practices. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, I have to have clarity. I have to have no thoughts again. I need to abide in awareness and all that kind of stuff. And then I would fend it out for maybe a whole day, and then the next day I'm kind of like sneaking off to the bars. You know what I'm saying? And because I can't seem to get rid of it, because it keeps on being seen as something that it's reinforcing it over and over again, and it's just this it's not a denial, but a complete acceptance of what is, right? That it is unreal, but it absolutely feels real. And if you're going to cry about it, cry about it. I'm saying, if you want to talk about it, talk about it. But everything is an illusion, and there's nothing really happening. But that's not an understanding. So the character doesn't have any choice to go through what it's going through. And if it wants to go meditate, fine. I'm thinking like what you were saying, or if it wants to, if it wants to do some chakra healing, so be it. It's like playing tea time again, saying with your favorite friends, saying dress up. And I got invited to a cacao ceremony, an ecstatic dance kind of stuff. Some people knew me from the spiritual. They're like, we would love to have you. And I basically had to kind of like said, oh no, it's all right. Thank you for the invitation, but I don't think it's going to be really out of place, this radical non-duality, because it talks about all of these practices, like altering, mindset and all that kind of stuff like that. And I was looking at all of the other things. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb there. So I had to so I had to basically said, regretfully, I'm not going to be able to make it, without really a lot of explanation. Thank you for the invitation. I'm going to decline at this time. But somehow people associate this communication with this ascension and all this kind of stuff, channeling, all of this kind of stuff. It's going to be so odd because everybody wants to play tea time in this festival, and then someone's saying there's no one in the tea time. There's no tea time. It's just a play. There's nothing wrong or right about that, but it doesn't matter. None of this works.
It's like realizing none of it's special can feel like a death. Like it could feel like a grief. Like so yeah, I understand what you'd basic if people didn't invite you to if they don't expect a funeral, then maybe it's best you don't go.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's just yeah. I'm still thinking about going to that festival. Just looking at it. I'll bring you, Kelsey, and you'll be like, this mystical whisperer,
I got a shirt.
In it. Yeah. I have a lot of that outfit. I have a lot of kind of like, like those yoga pants, with like Bali prints and everything. And I don't know what to do with them anymore. They're comfy, saying, but those were my costumes when I used to go to those, festivals and workshops and everything. And yeah, they're just costumes. They're just costumes.
Yeah.
The character's trying to look more spiritual.
I went through that. I thought I had to like switch all my clothes to like light colored clothing.
Yeah.
And like, but now I just like ethnic clothing. I like clothes from Thailand. So, but I went through that phase and I stopped listening to all the music. I grew up listening to because I thought it was like low vibe. And now there's no observer. It's like everything can be enjoyed.
Yeah.
There's no witness. It's just whatever.
Yeah. I open up an old iTunes account, with all of my old music that I completely forgot. Like when you have an old thing, and it pulled up all of this. And I was like, geez, they were all vegan music. They were music that I really don't enjoy. I'm saying some of them I do. Saying, but that's all I listened to for quite a while. And here this character is a music lover, right? So it neglected what it liked before in exchange for something light. And when I was into Kundalini, I think I was wearing white every time in beige, right? Because to the purity, to attract this this clean energy or something. And yeah, I went to the one of those tantric kind of like things. Have you done that too, Kelsey? I know we talked a lot about all of our seeking days before. That was kind of funny. The white tantra thing where you can, like, I can't remember what it was, but
I don't think so. Like I've dabbled in a lot of different things, but I never fully invested into anything. And it's funny because I say like I've never fit into anything. The only thing I fit into is non-duality because there's nothing to fit into. Yeah. It's like the radical acceptance, but I don't know if I went to a tantric thing. Like I know of it, I guess.
yeah, I'm the kind of, the characters also kind of like a jumping around, skipping around, trying different things. I like the non-duality spiritual buffet kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And and I would try all of them, right? Because there's got to be something that works for me. But it was fun, but there was also this desperation to get into that enlightenment, and all that kind of stuff, um and just basically believing everything that was being shoveled down the throat, right? Kind of like it's just this there's an authority that knows better than me. And what's really humbling about this is that I thought that I was an authority at one point, that what I was saying was coming from a lineage from, the I am that and all that kind of stuff. And awareness practices and all this kind of stuff. And so I was dealing that. I was kind of like pushing that to people's belief and ideas, right? So, um, and there was this intensity in that I have found the truth. And but at the same time, even though I have found the truth, I was still, you know, going to the different buffet. I would still read Course in Miracles. I would still read, like everything, and trying to make one of them work, right? Because one of this has got to work. Reading a little bit of Buddhism, all sorts of things. As I said, you know what? I used to be so busy that I used to walk like 10 miles a day listening to audiobook, and I would get home and I would read my books, and I would be studying constantly, trying to get to somewhere, trying to get into a position or a destination of knowing. So everything that is known, everything that I've ever known, is just garbage. You know what I'm saying? It just went down the drain. Um, and there's just so much relief from that, so much relief from all of that. Um, when I was so full of it, when I was so like I was an encyclopedia of spirituality at one point. And yeah, it was just all knowledge. It was just all knowledge. Kind of like what I said in the meeting, in your deathbed, what really matters is nothing. Nothing really matters. Everything that you've learned, everything that you held on to is going to be gone. All the knowledge, all of the position, all of the power, all of the money, all of the fame, the name, all of the game is just, it's all a disappearing act, actually. It all disappears. So when the apparent death appeared, that there's nothing that is permanent. Everything is just this apparent illusions, and at the same time, it's all it's all emptiness. I was like, oh wow, this is the deathbed. This is it. This is where everything rests in peace. Knowledge, understanding, desires. It's resting in peace. How was your apparent tumbling down that never happened?
It's rough. Yeah. Apparently, um, like it's kind of what you were saying before, that a lot of the spiritual seeking was a distraction from actually growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like I started to fall out of seeking when, like, I got a therapist basically, and my therapist just started pointing this stuff out, and she's like, this stuff isn't, like, I don't know where, she's like, I don't know where you're coming up with this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
I'd read stuff on the internet, and she'd be like, no, like, that's not a thing. So
Like
it's
a
not
reality
that.
check, right?
Yeah, and she actually was a Kundalini practicer too. The first lady I went to, so she knew a lot about spirituality, but she also had the professional training
Yeah.
of a therapist.
Yeah.
But it was so hard. It took like a year to let it go. Like,
Yeah.
I'd come to her every week, and I'm like, so I read this, like, I watched this Jordan Peterson lecture.
Oh no.
I
Oh
watched
no.
it, and like, looking back on it now, it's like I can see how neurotic I was. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just I couldn't accept everything that was appearing was perfect. And she was
Yeah.
trying to guide me to that.
Yeah.
She just, I think what she said is like, you just have a lot of guilt that you can't get over. Like, and it's hard because there's nothing, like, you really can't tell someone how to get over that. Like,
Yeah.
so when it was seen as stories, it's like I had attached to that guilt as like a permanent story, that this is what this character went through, the hero's journey. Like,
Oh, the
this
hero's journey. Yeah.
this challenge. Yeah, it's like, and when I first came across like Anna Brown and You, which was probably like, I guess maybe like almost a year and a half ago, I think.
Yeah.
Not this past winter, but the winter before. And it was just like, it was so triggering because I'm like, oh, I just looked up all this stuff and none of this means anything. Like all this data I've collected, all those screenshots I took. Like I don't even take screenshots of anything anymore. There's nothing I need to screenshot. Unless like there's just nothing.
Yeah.
So when you talk about being like an information hoarder, I totally understand that.
Oh, totally. It's
and my therapist said, like, you are neurotic. And I was like, well, how do I get rid of that? And she's like, I don't know. Like, it's just, but I guess if I'm to point to anything in that story, it's that like it's all fluid. Like, it's, even if you're neurotic, it's still temporary. And when it's totally accepted, that's when it just seems to disappear. I don't know.
Yeah. In the story of this character, I also went through some therapy, right? Because there was this brokenness here that was just being masked by spirituality. And so I went to, a professional kind of like, a psychotherapist, and really kind of like help with that. And I was so prideful of my spiritual status that I was even hiding that, right?
Yeah.
That, that the that if only people would know. And I would discuss that, and the therapist would be like, why is that? Good therapist, right? Really good therapist. And just kind of like and I'm like, well, my lineage, what I'm saying, and everything, and all this stuff, and that, and from that perspective, I'm saying, what are you talking about? So it probably looked like this insane, I'm saying, that there's just full of it, what I'm saying. And I said, maybe this is my karma work and everything, and I need to do more selfless service. And then I had another one that was really great towards the end, was just basically almost like this character is no longer doing this anyway. Basically can just laid it straight to me. Basically say, well, do you think that's true? I'm like, well, according to this and this and that, I've always had this information highway where I can, I can exit and take this kind of like, well, according to this, and then I have this quote kind of like mentality. There's this quote by everything, because in my lectures, because everything that I was saying was just this learned, quotes, and I would expand on it, basically bullshitting on a quote, what I'm saying, and um, it was tragic, right? Because when it, here I was kind of like doubting the therapy. I'm like, oh, this just kind of like reinforcing the character and everything. But meanwhile, I'm going to this to some of this kind of like lectures and satsangs and everything that also does that. That's also reinforcing the character. So it was just this madness, right? But towards the end of it, I guess the character was just severely depressed, and at times very highly suicidal, right? It was just this this really tragic, and it was enlightenment or die. Like, did you go through that too?
Yeah, well, that's the story, like even in like Vipassana, how I got my first intro to spirituality without knowing
Yeah.
anything about spirituality. There's a lot of stories of suffering. And you start adopting those stories like they're true for you.
Yeah.
And the idea of karma is like
Yeah.
just ridiculous. It's
It is.
absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It doesn't make sense. It's like Pinocchio or Wizard of Oz. It's just a fictional thing. It's just when it's seen that there's no one aware and nothing separate and everything, and all of there is that this is the fantastical thinking of reincarnation and past lives, and or even the apparent present doing, because there's no doer. All of that collapses, and that was my shtick before, right? Like, I'm purifying my karma by doing selfless service.
Yeah. I went through that
Basically,
too. Yeah.
selflessly doing things, selfless, apparently selflessly, uh, um, but very selfish, because it was working towards the um, the um, the higher self.
To get somewhere. Like if I do this now, it will bring me
Cause and
something
effect.
in the future. Yeah.
Cause and effect. Yeah, cause and effect.
Like
Wow, huh?
now, it's like now if I do stuff from the heart, there's no
Yeah,
expectation. It's just like, this is it. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't
yes,
make me a better person. I don't tell
yes,
anybody about it. It's not in a
exactly.
blog. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not blogging about it. I'm not you know doing karma point in my spiritual account. And I thought that, without spirituality, I'll be a horrible person. That's what I was afraid of. That, that the shadow and these dark tendencies, the whatever, all of the qualities that you hide. Your neglected child or something, or your shadow self or whatever. And then by doing this spiritual work, purifying and everything, you think that you can burn all of that. You know what I'm saying? But seemingly, when there is this radical acceptance of no one, and everything is just allowed, I see that the character does not need any spirituality. It's actually kinder. It's actually
Yes.
it's kinder, right? And it's radically honest. It doesn't bullshit. Or it
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't manipulate or whatever.
Yeah.
There's just this excitement in talking about it, and that's basically about it. But there's no more drama. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't try to fix anyone. I used to try to fix everybody. They're like, oh God, Emerson's coming over again, and he's probably going to be talking nonstop about the benefits of meditation, the benefits of eating vegan food, the benefits of whatever. But they see through this character that the character is still struggling. But somehow I got it together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's no more of that. So there's a more pleasant character to be around with, because it doesn't make up shit anymore, or doesn't believe. It's kind of like, I felt like I was a multi-level marketing scam artist that was kind of like, this pyramid thing that, well, if I convert you more into meditation, my ascension to the top will be. Marketing spirituality.
It's everywhere, right? Like
Yeah.
it's trending right now, I guess. But it's just when there's no measurement,
Yeah.
everything becomes more compassionate,
Yeah.
authentic. I think you said this
Yeah.
in one of your workshops. It's just pure intimacy.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
filter.
There's no filter. It's directness. It's directly kind. It doesn't see any separation. There's this joyfulness, in what it's doing. There's this passion. There's and the zero fucks given as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about likes and whatever, right? It's everything is just as it is. There's just this intimacy, this directness, this wowness to everything, no matter what, right? And so the character is free to be a character. It's free to be whatever it is, right? And there's nothing wrong or right about it being a character, but there's also no character at the same time. It's just this miraculous nothing happening for no one, and it's just this pure intimacy. It's nakedness. It's
Yeah.
naked. It's not in costumes. It's not in cosplay anymore.
Yeah. It has no mission. There's no
It
mission.
has no mission. Yeah, it has no purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, the purpose, wasn't it hard for you in the story? Did you try to find a purpose constantly?
Well, the purpose started before spirituality
Oh, yikes.
because like like um like wanting to be something special, like having these because sometimes I say like being a creative person, you have to be delusional at first because
Yeah,
what you're trying to do doesn't exist yet.
yeah.
But so I think a lot of, if people self-describe themselves as a creative person, there's that you could call it a creative ego, but I see it differently now. It's just what's appearing. It's just it. But yeah, so I was like always like it's great because I learned something I love doing, but it
Mm.
was like nothing was ever enough. I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
enjoy the simple things.
yeah, yeah. Like I would get into a new workshop or whatever, trying to get into kind of like and then I would be, it was like the trending stuff. Oh, you know what? All of my sacred contract has been signed. The Akasha thing or whatever, all of that
Akashic,
kind of
yeah,
stuff, Akashic thing. And then I would get into I'm living by the sutras. I'm doing the yamas and the niyamas perfectly, and then the next thing would be I'm at the seat of my consciousness always, and basically kind of like I was like just following what was trending, and it's this jumping around, and I have had no interest in whatsoever spirituality ever since like almost 4 years ago, or more than 4. I can't remember the timeline. No interest whatsoever. It's like cosplay now. It's like people go into the DC and Marvel, Comic Con, and dress up as the superheroes. It's just play. There's nothing wrong or right about it, but it's kind of like um there's no relevance to it anymore. It's irrelevant. Everything is irrelevant, and so there's this peace because nothing is being sought after now. Nothing is being chased. Nothing is being longed for anymore. And if it's a difficult situation, it's a fucking difficult situation. If there's grieving, there's crying, it's fucking grieving, right? It's not about getting rid of that, or if it's someone was talking to me about this, that she thought she was going kind of like she went ballistic, like that's also what's happening. And then after a couple of days, she was laughing about it. It's like, oh wow. I'm like, it's kind of like having this really really dark, stormy night. It's insane. The winds are blowing, the roofs are getting rattled and everything. And it is what it is. There's no outside and inside, right? And if you look at what's appearing happening in nature, sometimes there's a tornado, sometimes there's hurricanes, sometimes it floods. It's just what is. But there's no for permanent flood, or there's no permanent cloud. There's always this spaciousness, or there's emptiness, this nothingness where everything appears from. And yeah, so before was maintenance. I was maintaining the clear sky. So when the clouds would come by, I'm like, no, I'm the clear sky. I'm the clear sky.
yeah.
or when dark clouds are ahead, you're trying to run away from it. You know what I'm saying? But you can't run away from it. So I would try to drink or meditate or do all sorts of things to avoid it. But when it pours, it pours. When it floods, it floods. There's nothing that you can do about it, right? It's just what is. And of course, because you're thinking that you're traumatized by that cloud, so you avoid it. You avoid the next thing by increasing your practices, doing all of this stuff, and it just keeps on going and going and going and going. So right now, it's just kind of like, well, it is what it is. Whatever it is, it's going to be what is. There's nothing wrong or right about it. It's just what's happening. And I know people hate when it's just what's happening, but it's actually the most direct thing. It's
So
not an
direct.
avoidance. It's not an avoidance. It's what's happening. So if crying happens, it's what is happening. If laughing happens, it's what's happening. Yeah, it's the there's no more avoidance because there's no one avoiding it. No one is happening.
Yeah, it is yeah, it's freedom.
It is.
I
Yeah.
like what you said in one of the retreats about the philosophy and yoga and like going to yoga class. And it's funny because I joined yoga because I needed to get in shape
Yeah,
again
yeah.
after like this apparent injury. And then it was the philosophy at the end. And I was just like, I come back home and I'm like telling my family, I'm like, it was great. The teacher was great, but man, I can't
Yeah,
stand
the
that yoga.
preaching.
I can't stand
Yeah.
it anymore. It was like, if you do this practice, you'll light up and you'll be the light in someone else's life
Oh
later on.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was like, yeah, that's so beautiful. But like, also like, I'm just stretching my body. Like I'm literally just like physically in this room. That's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing special. So it was
No.
so it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. When I do, practice, it's just a practice now. You know what I'm saying? It's just stretching my body. And it feels great. It feels
Yeah, it
great.
feels so
But
good.
I'm allergic to the 10 commandments of spirituality, which is the yamas and the niyamas, right? And it's okay. It's all right. There's nothing wrong or right about that. But trying to incorporate philosophy into an exercise. It's an exercise. You know what I'm saying? It's great. And I don't really want to there are benefits to it, definitely, you know what I'm saying? But the preaching at the end or in the beginning, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like ah I was there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was the preacher. So it's kind of like, okay, all right. See you later. Sorry.
I just like in my head, I'm like, there is no me. So like, there is no you. Like, there's
Yeah.
nowhere to go. There's no
Yeah.
cause. There's no effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, oh wow. Okay. I have to go soon. We should do this again. It's really fun conversing
Yeah.
with you. I'm gonna stop the recording here.